All characters and events in this publication, other than those clearly in the public domain, are fictitious, and any resemblance to real persons living or dead is purely coincidental. Copyright 2016 by R.L. Coy. R.L. Coy Books presents The Master of Names by R.L. Coy. A reading by Jeanette Coy. Chapter 4, Part 5. Elemental servants were duking it out. One was a fire elemental, and the other was a rock elemental. Behind them, two wizards were issuing commands to the creatures. The crowd seemed to be cheering on the stronger fighter. "Go, go, Seth! Go, go, Seth! Seth, go, go!" Seth said, "Finish him off!" And his large fire elemental charged the rock elemental and knocked it clean off his feet. From where Plum was sitting, the fire elemental clearly had the upper hand in this battle. It wrapped itself around the rock elemental and was crushing its rock-like exterior as the stone caught fire, scorching the rock elemental. By this time, the fire elemental had completely engulfed the rock elemental in its body of flame, and it seemed to be crying out in frustration in its alien language, which sounds like rocks crashing down a hillside. Then it screamed such an intense scream that Plum covered his ears. He could see that the rock elemental was trying to get out of the engulfing flames, but to no avail. Then the fire elemental went in for the final attack. With renewed force, it poured itself like liquid fire around the rock elemental, like a boa constrictor squeezing the life out of its prey. The fire elemental consumed the rock elemental, its flaming eyes blazing bright and its voice screaming in triumph. A moment passed, and all eyes were locked onto the struggle. Then the crowd heard a sound like boulders breaking apart. The fire elemental let go of its opponent at once, and the rock elemental crashed down on the floor, defeated and dissipated into smoke. Everyone cheered, and the crowd rushed forward to congratulate Seth. "I had it in the bag the whole time. No one can beat me at Wizard's Duels," he said smugly. "Any other challengers?" All of the students stepped back to get out of his way. Plum could see Jedediah coming towards the commotion. "What's all this then? Oh, a wizard's duel? Dearie, dearie me, we are in trouble," Jedediah said. All of the students quickly scrambled back, except for Seth, who was standing there, still as a statue and unnaturally calm. Finally, he chuckled defiantly. "What are you going to do about it, old man?" Seth's fire elemental stood tall and imposing, blocking the path between Seth and Jedediah. Jedediah laughed. But you are not graduated yet. You know the rules better than anyone, Seth. Jedediah smiled calmly. I will not fight you, but I will stop this madness. Jedediah raised his staff at the elemental, and a light shot out and hit the creature in the chest. The fire elemental screamed as its giant body was covered in white energy and began to disappear. Seth screamed in rage and grabbed out his wand. He pointed it towards Jedediah, and a white light shot out. Plum saw the attack coming and quickly reacted, sending forth an incantation illuminating Jedediah. The light bounced off it, and Jedediah sighed with relief. Then he quickly countered, sending a bolt of energy from his staff onto the offending student. Seth recoiled from the blow and landed hard, hitting his head on the ground. He lay there, unmoving. Well, said Jedediah, with satisfaction in his tone, I guess that ends things for today. He turned and looked at Plum, who was standing there, wide-eyed in shock. I thought you were a goner, Plum said, snapping out of his trance. Yes, I would have been if you hadn't cast that defensive spell, Jedediah said with relief. Come on, let's go to our tutoring session. He raised his voice so that the crowd could hear him. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Anyone who strikes a teacher will be subject to severe punishment. Someone clean up this ritual paint off the floor. 3 weeks passed, and Plum was in his final stages of his basic training. He had trained with Jedediah and continued to be better than all of his classmates in warding, pentagrams, and runes. He'd also memorized the majority of his spellbook. Now proficient in charms and offensive spells, he would be a formidable opponent, even though he was only a first-year student. His next task was to choose his elective skill. Which elemental was he going to specialize in? Water, fire, or earth? He had absolutely no idea. He remembered a conversation he had had with Proleus about elemental summonings. All wizards must specialize in a particular elemental. This can be water, fire, or earth. These are all powerful beings and must be treated with respect. They are not pets. They are servants to be called on if the enemy you're facing is too great. They are not to be used for bullying or gaining power or prestige, Proleus had said. Why did you choose water then, sir? Plum had asked. Because, he had said with a smile, water is calm. It ebbs and flows with the tide and is relaxing. It also keeps you cool. I remember the joy of summoning my water elemental for the first time. He had smiled as he recalled the memory of summoning his lifelong companion. He had remembered playing on the beach after his graduation, the water elemental's friendly blasts hitting his face, and them both laughing as they sparred in the hot noonday sun. You can summon other elementals as well. Students are required to know how to summon all of them, but you can only specialize in one. Only one will treat you as a companion and a friend. He had paused. You will certainly enjoy your electives, I'm sure of it. They had both sat in comfortable leather chairs across from each other, and Prolius had asked, if only for the sake of conversation, "What is Devane like, boy? I have never been." Plum had replied, "Well, as you know, it is one of the largest places in law, and there is a lot of trade that goes in and out of that place. I used to be a grain hand before I came here." "How interesting," Prolius had said, seeming to be genuinely interested in Plum's history. He had told Prolius about his father, Alexander, and how he had died. He had told Prolius that he was a guardian for the portal on the Isle of Wight. "My respect for you is now without limit. That is an honourable charge indeed, protecting the great portal." They had both stood up, and Prolius finally said, "I think you will become a great wizard. Maybe you will become the next master of names." Plum recalled the conversation as he sat on the grass and tried to think about what Prolius had meant. He thought of asking Jedediah what this title, Master of Names, meant. And as he was thinking this, Jedediah sat beside him on the bench in the inner courtyard. "It's Saturday. Why aren't you hanging out with your friends?" Jedediah asked. "They're all busy, trying to rush and finish the diagram books," said Plum, a hint of boredom in his tone. "I was wondering. I was talking with Prolius in his study a few weeks back. He said something about the Master of Names. What is the Master of Names? Or who is he?" "Why, he is the one who will save us from evil. You must have seen depictions of the Master of Names everywhere. They're impossible to miss. When you entered through that long corridor towards Prolius's office, or in the Hall of Ceremonies, not to mention in the lecture halls, all of them have depictions of the Master of Names." Jedediah gave a dismissive wave. "Prolius thinks very highly of you, but I wouldn't worry about it. He is 1,000 years old. I wouldn't be surprised if he is starting to go a bit crazy." He made a circling gesture at the side of his head. "Come on, my boy. Tomorrow you have electives to choose. You've got lots to think about tonight. But don't stay up too late." He smiled. Jedediah and Plum walked together back to the dormitory. As they were walking, Plum smiled and said, "Jedediah?" The old man grunted. "Thank you for being my tutor." "No problem, lad. I'm happy to do it. I've become quite fond of you, I must say. You have certainly proved your worth and surprised us all with your talents in the magical arts. I couldn't have tutored anyone better if I was still the professor of the basic magic arts." As they got to the door, Plum said, "Well, see you tomorrow." Plum went through the doorway, up the stairs, and into the dormitory. As Plum was lying in bed, he thought about Drake, where he might be and how he was doing. But little did Plum know Drake was dealing with a far bigger problem than Plum could have ever comprehended.